recording. So welcome everyone to the Gita Gyan course for day 7, and we are doing chapter 7. So we'll start straight away. So dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, or ISKCON for short. So we'll begin with this prayer. So I'll just say it together and we can all say it also. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Translation: I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who has opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance, with the torchlight of knowledge. And we can say the pranam mantra for Srila Prabhupada together also. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So I will now say my pranam mantra for my Guru Maharaj. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vigna Vinasha Narasimha Iti Namine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langa Itim Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinadarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram. So, and these are our presiding deities in our temple, Sri Sri Nitai Sundar Gaura Hari on the left and Sri Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai on the right. And we'd like to ask all of you to, together with me, chant these two mantras you see at the bottom. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. And I would like to also introduce to you, we also have Utsava deities in our temple. So these Utsava deities are smaller deities, just about just 1 or 2 feet like that. And usually when we say Utsava Murtis, these deities are used for Abhishek and all that for during festivals. So these are Sri Sri Radha Gokulananda. So and we use them for Janmashtami, for Abhishek, and other festivals, swing festivals and all that. So then Gita Mahatmya for today. Oh, I forgot to remove this. Okay. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva Eko Mantrastasya Namamiyani Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. So this is verse 7 of the Gita Mahatmya by Sripad Shankaracharya. So the translation goes like this. There need be only one holy scripture, the divine Gita sung by Lord Sri Krishna. Only one worshipable Lord, Lord Sri Krishna, and only one mantra, his holy names, and only one duty, which is the devotional service unto that supreme worshipable Lord, Sri Krishna. So this is basically the idea here is in Kali Yuga, there are so many different ideologies, so many, there is atheism, those people who don't believe in anything. And then there is theism, And then there is pantheism, people who believe in many things at the same time. So it's when our intelligence is many branched, when there are too many things for us to concentrate on, it's not going to be very helpful. So therefore, Sripad Shankaracharya said, in the previous verse, all the essence, all the Upanishads, so many scriptures are there. There's no need for so many scriptures because we don't have the time to read them, especially nowadays in Kali Yuga. So understanding this, Vedavyas has compiled the Bhagavad Gita. And Sripad Shankaracharya is also saying the same thing. So he says, just go through the Bhagavad Gita. This one scripture is more than sufficient. It has all the knowledge that we need to transcend. And then one worshipable Lord. There is only one supreme personality of Godhead, right? We cannot say that this universe was created by 5 different people or 5 different personalities of 10 different personalities. No, there is only one supreme personality of Godhead who created the entire creation. And he has cabinet members, like the king will be helped by ministers. There will be Ministry of Defense, the general, and then there will be someone in charge of education, someone in charge of charity. So like that, even in modern day government structure, we have, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Higher, whatever, so many other ministries that they have. So like that, there may be very great personalities who may be in charge of these different places, different portfolios, if as it were. So, but still, there is only one supreme person who created the entire creation. So therefore, it's like the root of a tree. So when there are 330,000 different devatas. If you count all the devatas together, all the demigods and the devatas, all of them, there are 330,000 of them. So, we cannot worship all and each and every one. So it's like the tree. When we water the tree, we don't pour the water on the one part of the leaf or just put water on one part of the flower. No, we pour water on the root. So when we pour water on the root, the entire tree is nourished, right? So in the same way, when we worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, then all the devatas at the same time are also glorified. They are also worshipped. So therefore, this is the idea. Another example is the example that when we eat food, we cannot say that, why must we provide sustenance only to the stomach or to the mouth? Why we have, why don't we give, it's the, if somebody may say, what's the favorite part of your body or something, they may say, oh, I like my eyes. So then give food to the eyes only, take an injection and put. So, but we don't do that, isn't it? Because we understand if we give food to the stomach, then automatically the entire body is nourished. Even the finger is always touching the food. And then the finger says, I'm always touching the food. Why should I take the food and give it away to the stomach? I want to enjoy the food. So there's no way the finger can enjoy the food. So in the same way, when we offer our worship to the Supreme Lord, the entire body is just like when we give food to the stomach, the entire body is nourished. So when we worship the Supreme Lord, all the devatas in all existence are automatically satisfied. But it's not the same the other way. So we stand the chance of offending another devata if we only worship one particular devata. So that is a problem. So then that's basically, anyway, that's Sripad Shankaracharya's recommendation. Okay. And also all the Vaishnava Acharyas, they recommend the same thing. And only one mantra. So many different mantras. So why? So therefore, in Kali Yuga, because in order to even say the mantra, Vedic mantras, there has to be certain qualification. A person has to have a certain qualification in order to utter Vedic mantras. Like, for example, Gayatri mantra. Gayatri mantra is a secret mantra. Not everybody should be able to mention it. Although nowadays we hear it in the radio and all that, but actually it will not give any benefit, because it is actually a Vedic mantra secretly given by the through the parampara from mouth to mouth. So therefore, it's in order for it to be easy for everyone. So therefore, we have the Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. The holy names of the Lord are the only mantra, and the holy names are Nama. So therefore, they are not technically Vedic mantra. So therefore, one does not have to be a very qualified Brahmana to utter these Vedic mantras. Anybody can chant these mantras. So that's the speciality of the Maha Mantra. So only one mantra, his holy names, and only one duty. What is that duty? The devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Okay, so a bit, I think I spent more than I expected for that. So never mind. So we have, we begin by this verse. Let's chant together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. So let us recap a little what we have done in chapter 6 before this, right? Now, you know, the Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. So you could divide those into three. So first 6 chapters, and then the next 6 chapters, and then the last 6 chapters. So the first 6 chapters, it's giving us goal, focus. You know, people don't understand what is the right way. So, you know, Arjuna was thinking, should I just renounce everything and go to the forest? So Falgu Vairagya, false renunciation. And then, so because there are so many different opinions, so therefore the different paths are clearly established in the Bhagavad Gita from chapters 1 to 6. You know, starting from Karma Yoga in chapter 3, then go to Jnana Yoga, chapter 4. So like that, the levels of each of these yogas are established. And at each of these chapters, Krishna is saying, but you know, don't go through all these things. The best way is devotion, Bhakti Yoga. So he's been giving that point in all especially in chapter 6, we heard about this. So anyway, just recapping, in chapter 6, Krishna was talking about the true yogi, not the Falgu Vairagya, not the false yogi, but the true yogi. The true yogi is one who has renounced the desire for sense gratification, not one who has renounced work, one who has renounced the desire for sense gratification. So to come to that level, it's not so easy. So therefore, one has to follow Karma Yoga, start from the first level. And then as we perform Karma Yoga, we develop knowledge. So together with detachment and together with knowledge and detachment together will bring one to this level, right? And Bhakti also separately will bring that to that level. So there are two paths, right? One is the Jnana, the path of light, and one is the path of Bhakti, Bhakti Marga. So both also will give you the same result. One path is harder, whereas the other path is so much easier. So that we talked about in detail in chapter 6. So Dhyana, so in this chapter 6, basically Krishna talks about the Ashtanga or the Dhyana Yoga, which is the culmination of the Karma, Jnana, and Dhyana, which is the path of the Jnana path. So it's not very easy path, right? So, but the point is, the idea is to control the mind. Both Bhakti and the Ashtanga path, both aims to control the mind. Any yogic path, any yoga path is to control the mind. Why? Because to control the mind means we can control sense gratification. We can control our desires. So the key to controlling the desire is controlling the mind. But how does one do it? So there are two different ways. The Bhakti path takes a different way, which we will talk about from chapter 7 onwards. And up to chapter 6, we talked about the Dhyana path. So this is the mechanical path in chapter 6. Mechanically, sit in asana, do the don'ts, the yama, and then do the do's, the niyama, go to a secluded place, sit in a not too high, not too low, concentrate the eyes on the tip of the nose, sit erect in a posture, Padmasana. So like that, all these things we had to do in Dhyana Yoga, and then bring it to the next level, which is, yam, niyam, asana, then pranayama, controlling the breath. After pranayama only, then pratyahara, to renounce everything. You come to this point where renunciation is there. At that point, Brahman is achieved already. Then they start to concentrate, dharana, to fix the concentration on the Supreme Lord. And then when the concentration fructifies, it becomes dhyana, which is meditation. Then only comes meditation. So then it's simply sitting for 1 hour and thinking, that is not meditation. That it doesn't even come close to concentration. So when one is able to concentrate so fixedly in that point, then it comes to meditation. Then after that comes samadhi. So that was the dhyana yoga path. And Arjuna said, no, this is so difficult. Arjuna is telling, one who could have defeated Lord Shiva he pleased Lord Shiva. He defeated Lord Indra. He defeated so many people. So Arjuna is saying, oh no, this is a very difficult path. Because why? This is Dwapara Yuga, during Krishna's time and Arjuna. This process was not the process for that age. During the Satya Yuga time, the golden age, that was the process for meditation. So in other ages, it was going to be very difficult. So Arjuna, even in Dwapara Yuga, he's saying it's very difficult. Imagine in Kali Yuga, it's so much more difficult. But Krishna says it's difficult path, yes, but it is a possible path. It can be done, right? How? By suitable detachment and knowledge. So it can be done. And Arjuna asks, what about people who fails? And then Krishna says, don't worry about failure. Even if they fail, they will again take birth again and they will continue where they left off. So there is never a loss. And eventually they will reach me. Then Krishna says, so therefore, become a yogi, because to be a yogi is the best thing, because you can actually escape from this material world. And then he puts the special sentence in the last sentence, the last verse of that chapter. He says, but Arjuna, amongst all these yogis, this path which I just explained to you is a very difficult path, like how you say, but you don't have to do this way, because amongst all the yogi, the bhakta is the greatest yogi. So he sees here, Bhagavad Gita 6:47, and of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So Krishna says. So the takeaways that we had yesterday was, just to remind you. So in summary, Krishna says, be a yogi, because that and to be a yogi, that requires practice and detachment, right? Everything also requires everything worthwhile getting in this world requires practice, isn't it? So and for yoga, you need to detach from matter. And then dhyana yoga is impractical in this age. So that was another key takeaway. It's not easy to do meditation as a practice. Can be done, but it's not very easy and it's not practical. That's the problem. I mean, we can do it for health, we can do it for whatever, but we are not going to achieve the goal of yoga if we do that. So Krishna says, Krishna Bhakta is the greatest yogi. So those are the three takeaways. So today is chapter 7, knowledge of the absolute. So it's also called Jnana, Vignana Yoga. Now you would recall, I've been telling you that there are two parts there are two parts in yoga. One is the Jnana path, the path of light, the Jnana path, or the path of knowledge. And in that path, there is karma, jnana, and ashtanga or dhyana, meditation. So first karma yoga. Then as we become expert in that, then knowledge builds and we come to the understanding that there is something beyond this. So we understand about Brahman realization. So that's Jnana. And then as we realize that, we want to further concentrate that there is a source to Brahman. So therefore, we go beyond Brahman level. We realize the Paramatma. So that is what the yogis do. The yogis are actually greater, the Ashtanga yogis are greater than the jnanis because they have achieved Paramatma realization. So this chapter is interestingly entitled also as Jnana Vignana Yoga. Now, what is Jnana? Jnana means knowledge. Now, there was chapter 4, Jnana Yoga, remember, right? But Jnana Vignana means realized knowledge. You know, one thing is to hear knowledge, like we are talking now, and we hear and everything. But to practice, to realize it in our depths of our heart, you know, to really understand and accept and practice it, that is Vignana. So therefore, Jnana Vignana Yoga. So the goal, the realization of all the previous knowledge which was given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is simply so that we can come to the conclusion. The conclusion here is presented in chapter 7 as Jnana Vignana Yoga. So let us hear what is this conclusion. The same conclusion Krishna has been hinting in all the other chapters. But in this chapter 7 onwards, from chapter 7 to chapter 12, the middle 6 chapters, Krishna will go all the way to talk about the highest conclusion of yoga. So the first verse today, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Mai Ashakta Manaha Partha Yogam Yunjan Mat Ashrayaha Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yata Jnasya Sitatchrinu. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Oh, now hear, O son of Pritha." Pritha means Kunti Devi. Sorry, not Kunti. Yeah, Kunti. So, O son of Pritha. So, Pritha is another name for Kunti. How by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So previously, you know, it was not very clear, but in the previous chapter, the last verse Krishna mentioned, I'll just go through that again. What was the last verse? One who thinks of me within himself and renders service to me, he is the most intimately united and is the highest yogi, right? And Krishna continues that same point. See, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, he's repeating almost the same point. With mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So Krishna is saying it's not just detachment. No, the path of light or the path of jnana is all about detachment. But remember the trapeze example? If you want to swing from one trapeze to another, one has to let go the first trapeze and then only jump and catch the other trapeze. So therefore, if one attaches oneself to Krishna, then very easily one can practice the highest level of yoga, which is basically you have conquered the mind attached to Krishna. So that's the key. Later we will talk more and more this entire next few chapters. So next verse, Jnanam te aham sa vijnanam idam vakshyami asheshataha yajñatva neha bhuyo anyaj jnatavyam avashishyate. I shall now declare unto you. So this is a very important verse where Krishna is saying, I'm now going to tell you, I shall now declare unto you, Arjuna, in full this knowledge. So what knowledge was Arjuna, what knowledge was Krishna has been giving all this while? Krishna has been giving the knowledge about how to detach from matter, how to escape from material, the material platform and transcend and go beyond to the spiritual platform. How to escape from this samsara, this ocean of material miseries, right? So, and now Krishna is saying that that particular knowledge which I have been telling you all this while, step by step, I am now giving you the full knowledge. So I'm now declaring it to you in full, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. So this is the last word of yoga. There is nothing beyond this yoga. So in other words, Bhakti Yoga is the last word, is the absolute pinnacle of the yoga ladder, right? So that is the purport of this verse. And then he continues in 7.3. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye yatataamapi siddhanam kaschim mam viti tatvataha. So Arjuna, Krishna is saying, you know, it is the greatest, the highest yoga is this devotional service, but unfortunately, it is not willingly followed by many people. So there is a reason for that. We won't talk about that reason today. We'll talk about that reason another time. But the point is, the situation of the world is like this. Out of many thousands among men, if there were so many thousands and thousands, of course there are millions, right? So one of these, out of these many thousands, may endeavor for perfection. That means amongst all these people, one of them might think, okay, let me now work towards getting out of this material entanglement. Let me now try to transcend and go beyond to spirit. So they may try to work for perfection. Because we do not find so many yogis, isn't it? Very few. Everybody is more interested in some other thing, right? So, and out of these one person, for example, if out of thousands, one wants to become a perfectionist, and like that, there may be many. There may be, you know, out of many thousands, there may be one. So like that, there may be many of these who want to achieve perfection. And amongst all of these who want to achieve perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, Krishna is saying, hardly one knows me in truth, because they are all not following the bhakti path. So they are following the jnana path. So it's not easy in the jnana path. So why are these two paths available? Why not just have one path? So the reason for that, we will not talk about it today. I'll keep you in suspense. You can think about it. We can think about it. Why is there this thing? What is the difference between these two pathways? And why is Krishna giving these two? But I will definitely give you the answer in before chapter 12 is over. But just for us to think about it a little. Okay. So Krishna, this is a bit of the summary so far what we have done. So Krishna is talking about the topmost realization, or the topmost realization of yoga. And what is that? Basically, it consists of knowing God in full. And who is that? Krishna. And that is the last word in yoga. Krishna says there's nothing further. This is the highest, right? And then he says it's very rare. Therefore, it's very secret. It's very rare. Not many people are able to follow this because they don't want to. There are various reasons. And then he will talk about this in this chapter. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sarva Karana Karanam. So this is what Krishna is going to talk about from 7.4 to 7.12. So basically, Krishna is talking about, he starts revealing himself. Krishna starts to talk about himself because he already mentioned that knowing me or knowing Krishna is that highest last word in yoga, isn't it? So therefore, how to know about Krishna? We can only know about Krishna if Krishna reveals himself. So therefore, he starts telling Arjuna. He starts revealing to Arjuna what are his glories. So now, before we continue that point, I just wanted to mention, in chapter 6, I talked about the three levels of Brahman, the three levels of God realization, right? So the first level of God realization is Brahman. So I gave the example about the sun, the sunlight, right? And the deity of the sun. So when we are able to see sometimes we cannot see the sun because it's covered by clouds, but we can see the sunlight. The sunlight is it's ambient light, isn't it? We can see it everywhere. So that is the first level of realization. When one sees light, one knows there is the sun outside, but the first thing one sees is light. So Brahman realization is like that. Everywhere there is light. Brahma, Jyoti. And then when one takes up Dhyana Yoga, from Jnana to Dhyana, that means meditation. And when one does the Ashtanga process of meditation, he slowly, starts to visualize Paramatma, the Supreme Soul, within each and every one's heart. So he starts to see Paramatma everywhere. So that is within himself, sharing the soul with him. I mean, there's his soul and there's Paramatma soul. And he also sees the same Paramatma in every other person. And he also sees Paramatma in every object also. So that is Paramatma realization. And then the topmost realization is, the Paramatma realization is like someone who has seen light. He looks up and concentrates in the sky and looks through the clouds, and then he's able to see the outline of the sun. So that is Paramatma realization. He has realized that the Brahman has a source. It comes from the same source who is everywhere. So then, but the Bhakta is able to go beyond. He is able to understand that if there are so many Paramatmas, all these Paramatmas are actually coming from one single Bhagavan. So all the other Paramatmas are simply expansion. The Supreme Lord has the ability to expand himself. He can duplicate himself many, many times. So later in this chapter, we're going to hear one pastime about this, how Krishna duplicates himself. So these are called expansions or amsa. So the Sanskrit term is amsa. So like that, Paramatma is one of the expansions of the Supreme Lord. And the Bhakta can actually understand that there's something beyond Paramatma, which is Brahman realization. So remember this chart which we discussed yesterday? Sorry, not yesterday. In chapter 6, that was on Saturday. We talked about it. So the Bhakta, he can actually directly, if he wants to realize God, now this is God, right? God is in the spiritual platform, right? We are currently in Maya. So if the Bhakta, if he takes up the process of devotional service, he can transcend beyond Brahman. He can go beyond Brahman. He can go beyond Paramatma, which is what the yogis, the meditating yogis, they achieve. The Bhakta can go all the way to understand Bhagavan himself. And Bhagavan, if one understands Bhagavan, then one automatically understands Paramatma, automatically understands Brahman. So Bhagavan is like the deity inside the sun. So we have sunlight, we have the sun planet, and we have the deity inside the sun, which is like Surya Narayana. So therefore, the one who has realized the Surya Narayana aspect of the sun automatically knows about the sun, automatically knows about the sunlight. So therefore, it's the highest realization, like how Krishna has been telling. So there are some other places where the same point is mentioned. It's not just in one place in Bhagavad Gita, many places it's mentioned. For example, in the Ishopanishad. Now, amongst all the 108 Upanishads, the Ishopanishad is the topmost. So this is what the Ishopanishad says. Oh my Lord, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. So, so therefore, this is like how we want to see the sun god. If we want to see the sun deity, we pray to the sun. Oh, your dazzling effulgence is blinding me. I cannot see you. Please kindly remove your effulgence so that I can see how your form is, how you look like. So that is the highest realization. So again, it's mentioned in the Ishopanishad. In the next verse of the Ishopanishad, verse 16, it says, "O my Lord, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal supreme personality of Godhead, like unto the sun as I am." So you see, the example of the sun is not an ordinary example. It is actually Upanishad, is from the Upanishad itself. It's a bona fide example. So then Krishna continues to reveal himself. He now starts to talk about himself to give Bhagavan realization, right? He's telling Arjuna, be a bhakta, be a devotee. And in order to be a devotee, one has to understand who is Krishna, who is God. So therefore, Krishna reveals. He starts to begin about his glories. This is a very important verse. Mata parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya Mayi sarvam idam protam shutre mani gana iva. Shutre means thread, shutre, like thread. So just like how the thread is hidden in the necklace of money, money gana. Money means it's like pearls, a necklace of pearls. You cannot see the thread within the necklace of pearl, isn't it? If the pearl is tightly woven inside, we cannot see the thread. So similarly, O conqueror of wealth, so Krishna is telling to Arjuna, Dhananjaya means conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. So Krishna is declaring clearly here, there is no truth superior to me. Mata parataram nanyat. So he's saying that everything rests upon me. So Mayi sarvam means everything. Sarvam idam, everything in that everywhere, everything everywhere rests upon me, just as pearls are strung on a thread. So the thread is Krishna, like Krishna, and just like how all the pearls are within, tied together and kept in place, but kept in place together. So in the same way, the Supreme Lord is holding the entire creation together. Otherwise, if there was no thread, the pearls will all just break apart and fall everywhere, isn't it? So what keeps the universe in its orbit? What keeps all the planets in orbit? What keeps everything moving perfectly? So that is the Supreme Lord, which is like the thread, hidden, cannot be seen. So therefore, Krishna is telling. So now he is revealing himself. So Krishna as God, he has the right to reveal himself to who he wants to. So that is the point Krishna is also putting in that particular verse. So a bit of explanation here for us to understand how this entire universe is also resting by the energy of the Supreme Lord. Now, the Supreme Lord is Bhagavan or Parameshwara, Param Ishvara. Param means supreme, Ishvara, controller. So there's Ishvara, Maheshwara, Parameshwara. So Ishvara is controller, Maheshwara is great controller, Parameshwara is the supreme controller. So, and what does this Supreme Lord do? He actually has a lot of energies, so many Shaktis which serve the Supreme Lord, which are all part of him. So he actually doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to do any work. So you know what happens when Krishna wants to, how the entire material world got created. When Krishna wants to create this material world, he doesn't have to come and do work. It's not his business. He is always enjoying Leela pastimes in the spiritual world. So for the purpose of creation, Krishna will expand. The one becomes two. So Krishna becomes Krishna and Balaram. And then from Balaram, he will expand into the Chaturvyuha Vishnu. Don't worry if that sounds complicated, but anyway, there are four Vishnus, which are Sankarshan, Vasudeva, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. They basically the four sets of Vishnus, the Chaturvyuha, and from there eventually it comes to, they expand further to become Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is also called Garbho Dakashayi Vishnu. Don't worry about all these details. I'm just explaining to you in brief, so how the entire creation comes. So this Mahavishnu, he will lie down in the causal ocean. Causal ocean means the ocean of creation, the ocean of causes. He will lie down and he will just rest. Yoga Nidra, the word is Yoga Nidra. Nidra means sleep. He will just rest and he will let all his energies to do everything. And in this way, he creates all the entire universes. So that is how it's created. Many, 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 many universes are created from this Mahavishnu. So we won't go into the details of that. We can have another talk about that another time. So the point is, what I'm trying to say here is this Bhagavan or Parameshwara or Krishna, he is the source of all energy. So now we want to hear a little bit about the types of energy that Krishna has. So there are many, many, many energies, but we can classify them into two categories. So the first category is called Bahiranga Shakti. Bahir Anga. Anga means limb. Bahir means outside. So this is the external or outside or external energy, also known as the material energy. So this is basically what creates this entire universe. This material energy is like Maya Shakti, and it's basically earth, water, fire, the Panchabhutas, the earth, water, fire, air, and all those material elements. They are all Bahiranga Shakti, material energy. It's used to create matter. That is one part of his Shakti. And the personification of this material energy is Durga Devi. So this personification of this Bahiranga Shakti, that Shakti, if it takes a form, that form is the form of Durga Devi within this material world. So she is also called Maya Devi because her power is basically illusion, and she controls the entire creation of this material world by the so she's one of the energies. And then comes Krishna says, but besides this Bahiranga Shakti, besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior Param energy, Prakritim. Param Prakritim. This was covered in Bhagavad Gita 7.5. We didn't cover this verse because, as you know, there are many, many verses. So, but still, this, if you can find it in 7.5. So there is another Shakti, another more superior Shakti. So how to understand? This superior Shakti is called spiritual energy. Now, actually, both are spiritual. It's just that to differentiate between spirit and matter, so therefore we call it spiritual energy and one is material energy. But actually, both are spiritual. It's just that we want to differentiate spirit or consciousness or, from just inert matter. Matter doesn't have consciousness, isn't it? So this is called Antaranga Shakti. Antaranga. Antar means inside. So this is the inner energy or the Param energy, the greater energy of the Supreme Lord. And this greater energy of the Supreme Lord has many aspects also, but basically these two are related. This material energy is actually nothing but a shadow of this spiritual energy. So this is basically the relationship between the two. Just like how you can see an object casts a shadow. So the actual energy of the Lord is the spiritual energy, but that energy also casts a shadow. And the shadow of that energy is actually material energy, which is matter, doesn't have consciousness. Just like how shadow doesn't have consciousness. Shadow follows the object, right? If we are walking, we are having consciousness and we are moving and we are going about. The shadow also seems like it's moving and going about, but actually the shadow doesn't have consciousness. It is just a reflection only. And that also not a perfect reflection. It is a reflection in matter. It's inert. So that's the brief understanding. So we won't go too much into that. That the details of all that is for more advanced classes. So I'm just giving you a glimpse that there are a lot of things to understand in spiritual in Jnana. So anyway, Krishna continues. So he talks about his opulences. He reveals himself. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the supreme controller, right? He's also known as Parameshvara. And he is also known as Sarva Karana Karanam. That means he is the cause of all causes. He's the origin. So therefore, he explains this nicely in Bhagavad Gita 7.4 to 7.6. He tells that he is the source of all energies. Krishna is declaring, I am the source of everything, all energy. Just now we talked about the energy, Antaranga Shakti and Bahiranga Shakti. We talked a bit of that. That is a very deep subject matter. So then we will go to Krishna then says, there is no truth superior to me. That verse 7.7, we read out just now, the pearls and all that. So that's where he said, there's no truth superior to me. And then he goes on to give simple examples so that Krishna can understand the supremacy of Krishna. Sorry, Arjuna can understand the supremacy of Krishna. So therefore, he continues with the analogies of the Supreme. He gives analogy, examples, right? For example, he will say, I am, Arjuna, I am the taste of water. Because, it's not easy for us to understand God. God is so great. He's so vibhu. Imagine like a frog who has lived in an ocean, in a well all his life, right? If a frog has lived in a well all his life, if someone tries to explain to the frog what is an ocean, the frog has no idea, no concept. He cannot begin to imagine what the ocean will be, right? Because he has only seen the well, the body of water. He cannot imagine what the ocean might look like. So therefore, we cannot imagine how Krishna is so powerful. So therefore, Krishna begins, he will talk more, but he begins with simple understanding. He says, I am the taste of water. Water has taste. When we are so thirsty, it is the most tastiest thing ever, isn't it? I am the taste of water. I am the light of the sun and the moon. So what is great about water, right? What is great about the sun? What is great about the moon? It's the light, right? So Krishna is basically trying to say that everything great in anything, imagine that to be me. Like that, Krishna is explaining. I am the syllable Om. So we use the word Om for almost all Vedic mantras. So therefore, Krishna is saying, without that Om, the mantra will not. Om is the main one. There are other aspects of Om like Klim and all that, but Om is the general main one. So without that Om, all other mantras have no value. It's like the root. I am the sound in ether. So ether is one of the elements, and sound is the main point of that element. I am the ability in man, Krishna says. I am the fragrance of the earth. I am the heat in fire. Now, fire without heat is useless, right? It's like removing the soul of the fire away. So in the same way, Krishna is saying, I am the soul of all existence. The point that he's trying to say here is, I am the soul of all existence. I am the essence of all existence. And he says that also. I am the life of all that lives. Example he gives. I am the penance of all the ascetics. That means everybody who's doing penance and austerities, I am that penance, Krishna says. So like that, he goes on. So from 7.7, from 7.9 to 7.11. So if you like, you can read these particular verses to understand more. And then he says, I am also the master of the three modes. Now remember, I have introduced to you the three modes before in chapter 3, chapter 4 and all that. So there are three modes of nature. This entire world works in these three modes. So, in terms of work, in terms of activities, in terms of food, in terms of consciousness, in terms of personalities, in terms of everything, there are these three modes of nature: mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and mode of goodness. So it keeps changing. For example, if we take the day, right? The morning is considered the mode of goodness. The afternoon is the mode of passion, because everybody, morning mode of goodness. So people like to pray, people like to do meditation or whatever, japa, chanting. The afternoon period is like the mode of passion, because people are working, doing a lot. They cannot sit. It's difficult to even chant or even sit quietly and be calm, because always, I need to do this, I need to do that. So that's the mode of passion. And then in the evening, at night, is the mode of ignorance, because that's the time people sleep, take rest. So there's no knowledge. In mode of ignorance, there is no knowledge. Mode of passion is full of activity, and mode of goodness is full of knowledge and transcends. And amongst these three modes, Krishna says, I am the master of these three. So then Krishna continues with this verse 7:15. Namam duskritino muddha prapadyante naradamaha mayaya paharta jnana ashuram bhavam ashritaha. So Krishna continues to now say, okay, I've explained who I am to you in brief. I've explained my glories and everything so that you can benefit from this. Then only you will understand that who is the supreme. But there are many people who cannot understand this. So Krishna is trying to tell who are these types of people who cannot understand about yoga, who cannot understand about supreme, who cannot understand about the supreme controller or the supreme lord. So this verse is very popular. A lot of people like to quote it. So basically, namam duskritino mudaha. Those miscreants or mischief makers, or people who are naughty, who are grossly foolish. So that's the first one. Mudda. Duskritino mudda. Duskritino means miscreants. Mudda means foolish, grossly foolish. So that's the first category. So I will talk about each of these category in a while. Right now, I'll just cover everything. Okay. And those who are lowest among mankind. Naradama. Prapadyante naradama. Nara means man, and Adama. Adama. Dama means dharmic. Adama means they are non-dharmic. They are the lowest of people. Naradama. Okay. And then there is Maya Paharta Jnana. Maya means illusion. Apaharta means stolen away. What has been stolen away by illusion? Jnana. Knowledge has been stolen away by illusion. That means they are very knowledgeable, but they have become illusioned. They did not understand the point of that knowledge. So this is here. Those whose knowledge is stolen by illusion. And then Ashuram Bhavam Ashritaha. Ashura means, demonic mentality. Ashuram Bhavam. So it's not just demon, it's demonic bhava, demonic nature. So demonic mentality, demonic consciousness, demonic nature. So Ashuram Bhavam Ashritaha, one who has this and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons. So one who has demonic mentality or consciousness, these four types of people do not surrender unto me, Krishna is telling Arjuna. So just like in the Mahabharata, we had Duryodhana, we had all these people who they just couldn't surrender to the Supreme Lord. They will always find reasons. So the first one is Duskritina Mudaha, the grossly foolish. Now, who are the miscreants who are grossly foolish? So the description given here is that these are the types of people who are so busy in their lives that they have no time to think about spiritual matters. So, they are just so busy working, and they don't understand that this human form of life is not meant for that. It's not meant to simply work and work and work. It is meant for actually self-realization and transcending, so that we can now escape from this material world and go and attain the supreme destination. That is the human form of life, because animals cannot do that. They don't have the intelligence to do that. Humans can do that. So, for example, the donkey. Now, someone waves a carrot in front of the donkey. The donkey thinks, oh, I'm only eating grass all around me. Now, this carrot looks absolutely scrumptious. Now, let me give up this grass and let me now go after this carrot. So, therefore, what happens? The carrot is always one step ahead. The donkey moves, he walks, but the carrot is always in front of him. And then the man moves the carrot on the other side, the donkey turns and he continues walking. So that's the idea. So therefore, we are continuously looking after, we are working, all for what? because the acharyas explain we are doing the four same things which the animals are doing also. What are these four things? Eating, we all the money and all the working we are doing is so that we can guarantee that we can continue eating throughout our life. Eating, sleeping, so that we can continue to sleep nicely, comfortably throughout our life. Eating, sleeping, mating, that means so that we can have sense gratification. Mating, like the animals also mate, so that we can attract a spouse or someone, and maintain that spouse and all that. So that is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So when someone attacks me, they want to steal away, I need to have my resources ready so that I can defend myself. I have enough money to build a wall. I have this much of money in the bank, so that I need to protect this. So this is what we are all doing. So if we are only doing this, then the scriptures say that we are duskritino muddaha. We are just foolish. We are wasting our lives. So that is those type of people will never turn their head and try to understand higher understanding. So like how Krishna is telling Arjuna, go beyond, go to the yogic platform. So then we have the next one. The next one is Prapadyante Naradama. Naradama means the lowest of men. So here I'm giving the lowest of men means those people who are wasting their lives. It's not enough that they have simple food or whatever. They spend all their energy in lavish celebration of life. So they it's like hedonistic lifestyle. They just spend like anything. They live like anything. They do all kinds of horrible activities. They are ready to plunder, rape, and kill in order to get what they want, the sense gratification. So these are called the lowest of men. So example I'm putting here is this is King Louis the 16th. The French Revolution. Before the French Revolution happened, this was the king. His wife was Marie Antoinette. So both of them were extremely lavish. The whole of France was starving. The entire population of France was starving because these two people, they swindled the money. They took all the money, so much of crushing taxes, and they threw lavish parties, and they did all kinds of nonsensical things. They and in fact, someone once told this Marie Antoinette, she was very famous to be quoting this verse. She was so lost in her sense gratification, she couldn't understand the suffering of her people, the king also, Louis. So someone asked Marie Antoinette, your people are suffering. They are so hungry. They don't have bread to eat. And then Marie Antoinette said, if they don't have bread, why don't they eat cake? So that's a very famous verse. It's quoted again and again. When someone is so poor, they cannot afford bread. And this Marie Antoinette had the gall to come and tell them, eat cake instead. So anyway, we all know what happened to them. The French Revolution happened, and all these people were caught, and they were cut off. Their heads were cut off in the guillotine, the machine where the thing drops, and then the head is cut off. So anyway, these are the types of Naradama. So like that, there are many people like this in this world, right? In politicians and all that, they take the money from the populace and they plunder it. And then these kind of people cannot understand Supreme. They cannot understand God. They cannot understand yoga. They cannot understand anything subtle. So they only know sense gratification. So then Krishna is telling the third type of people. Now these are the Maya Paharta Jnana. These are like the philosophers and the scientists. They are so egoistic, and they are very knowledgeable. They are very intelligent, right? Yes, but unfortunately, their knowledge and intelligence is stolen away by Maya, because their ego is very high. They cannot accept that there is, even though when they study or when they go through, there are evidences, they will not accept those evidences. They will just ignore them, right? So like that, atheists, famous top atheists, these are Maya Pahrita Jnana. They cannot understand the Supreme Lord. They will always find some proof. I will never accept God until he appears right in front of me and declares his his existence to me, then only I will accept God. So that is the arrogance of these people, right? They don't understand. They cannot demand the king to come in front of them. They only have to go and petition to the king, right? Before they get an audience in front of the king. So in the same way, God does not have to appear in front of us. He doesn't care if we don't believe in him in that sense. Of course, he cares, because ultimately we are all his sons, and Krishna wants all of us to go back to him. But he gives he gives the free will for the souls to decide. He doesn't interfere in the free will of the souls. And the fourth type of person is Ashuram Bhavam Ashritaha. Those who have demonic nature, who do some of the most atrocious things in the world. So I think you can recognize some of these faces which I'm putting here. The one on the left is Hitler, and the one on the right is Joseph Stalin. So both of them killed so many people in so many cruel ways, and they didn't care whether it's children, women, or old men. They didn't care. They killed all of them wholesale. So these are the types of people who will stop at nothing to get what they want. Right? So then Krishna, now after telling the four types of people who cannot surrender to the Supreme Lord, then Krishna says, but then there are four types of people who do surrender to me. So then he starts saying, Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna arto jignasor artarti jnani cha bharatar shaba. So this verse is also a very popular verse. O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. Who are they? So they are the Arto. Arto means one who is in distress. One who is distressed. So here we have a picture of Gajendra, the elephant. Gajendra was caught by the leg by this crocodile, Huhu. And Gajendra couldn't escape. So none of his relatives could save him. So he was in great distress, and he prayed to the Supreme Lord. He remembered, due to his past birth, he was not an ordinary elephant. So he prayed to the Supreme Lord in the time of his distress. He surrendered to him and offered him a lotus. So then the Supreme Lord Vishnu directly came. Now you may say, why the Supreme Lord Vishnu doesn't directly come to us? Okay, that's a different point. We will talk about it some other time. But anyway, Gajendra was not an ordinary person either. He was actually, he was cursed, and he was a great personality. So, and he already had a lot of devotion in him. So anyway, so one in distress, Arto. So, usually people who are in distress, some kind of distress, any type of distress, they usually will have no choice, and therefore they will surrender to the Supreme Lord. They will come to Krishna and they'll pray to God, please help me, O Lord. Like that they will ask. That's one type of, that's the beginning of devotion. That's also one way of devotion. Then Krishna says the second type is Jignasor. Jignasor means one who is curious, simply curious. Oh, what these Hare Krishna people have to say? Let me go and hear them. What this Bhagavad Gita has to say? I want to know this information. Know what Krishna has to say. So their lives are, they are not in misery directly. So, but they are at least curious. They want to know more. So they are showing that they are at least having a higher thinking other than just eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. So that's also good. Jignyasu. So here we have a picture of Suta Goswami asking questions. Saunaka Rishi asking questions to Suta Goswami to understand higher, to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam. So then the third type of person who comes and surrenders to the Lord is those who artarti. Artha means wealth. Arti. That means one who's looking after wealth, who wants something, who wants gain. So wealth means not just money, it can be any type of gain. So someone who wants gain, they worship the Supreme Lord. Like for example, you go to Tirupati, you will see, a lot of people will put Balaji's picture or Lakshmi's picture. People will put Lakshmi's picture, but they won't put Krishna's picture. So Lakshmi is a chaste wife, and she only stays where Krishna stays or where Vishnu stays. So usually Lakshmi, Vishnu should be put together, right? So anyway, there are these people who will pray to Balaji and say, I will give you your, they even make him as equal partner. In India, they can actually, the deities actually all are recognized personalities in law. In the court of law, they are actually recognized personalities. So you can actually put the deity as one of your business partners. So people do that in India. So Tirupati Balaji is a business partner for many, many people. So like that. So those who are after wealth, they also surrender slowly by beginning to offer seva to the Lord for whatever their motive. Eventually, they start surrendering more and more. And the fourth one is called Jnani. Jnani means one who is in knowledge. Now, this is the yogi, one who has gone through karma yoga. At one point, he may decide to switch to bhakti because from there he comes. Same thing like one who goes to Jnana yoga, one who has knowledge, he may switch to devotion. And then one who is doing meditation, he also at one point might switch to devotion. So these are the jnanis. These are the type of people who come. Krishna is saying. Okay. So then he says, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvam iti sa mahatma su durlabha. So he's saying, after many, many births and deaths, bahunam, many, many, janma, anam, ante, births and deaths, many, many, after many, many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge, jnana one who is in knowledge, knowledge of what? Knowledge of mam means me. One who has knowledge of me, he surrenders, prapadyate, surrenders unto me, right? Or comes to me. Vasudeva Sarvamiti, knowing that Vasudeva is the goal of everything. Sarvam iti, the goal of everything is Vasudeva. Vasudeva is basically Krishna, another name for Krishna. So such a person is Sa Mahatma, such a great person is Su Durlabha, very, very rare. So this was already mentioned, right? So after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, Sarva Karana Karanam, right? And all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So that's why this is called the king of knowledge. Later in chapter 9, we will hear that how this is called the king of knowledge. Raja Vidyam. That will come to later. Okay. So now we are just summarizing this. We have finished this topic of chapter 7. So basically it has these three subsections. Krishna begins by talking about bhakti as the topmost realization, the highest point, right? And then he says, knowing me, Krishna, knowing me that's the highest realization of yoga, is the end of yoga. And then he talks about himself, Ishvara Parama Krishna, how he is the controller of everything, how is the cause of everything, and he gives some brief understanding. Later on in chapter 10, he will talk about it in more detail. And chapter 11, he will describe about himself in more detail. But for now, he gives a brief prequel about his glories. And then he talks about who are the ones who are qualified to hear and understand, and who are the intelligent ones who will understand, who are the foolish ones who will not understand. So the foolish and the intelligent, it's many, many verses, 713 all the way to 730. So you can go through those. We covered a few of them, right? We talked about the less intelligent, the mudas and all of that. So those were the topics. So in order for us to understand this knowledge nicely, there is a story where we can talk about. This is just to end the class today. So this is the story which is called Brahma Vimohana Leela. So how Lord Brahma himself became confused. So like, Jnana Paharta, even Lord Brahma, of course, Lord Brahma is very great personality. And when, just like how Arjuna became confused, so in the same way, Brahma became confused. So it's not that they became confused for any reason, because Krishna does all these pastimes to instruct us. So he uses these great personalities like a drama. it's just for our instruction, so that we can learn about these things. So, when Krishna was young, about, 7 years old, like that, he used to go to the forest with all his cowherd friends, his gopas, the cowherd boys. He used to bring all the different food, and then after tending the cows, they will enjoy a very nice lunch. So they will share all the food all the mothers gave for all the children. All of them, the boys will give all the food to Krishna, and Krishna will taste one from each one of it, and then he will feed some food to his friends, like that. Now, there was one day, Brahma was always wondering, this Krishna, I know I actually begged the Lord to actually incarnate and come to this world. So, and he thought Krishna was actually that same Supreme Lord in the boy form. But sometimes he gets confused. And one of those times when he got confused is like when, Brahma, you can see the picture here, there's Lord Brahma sitting on a swan far away. He is actually observing. And then once he saw, and Krishna wanted to play a trick on Brahma. So therefore, when he knew Brahma was watching. So what he did, this Krishna, very great Aryan culture is that we eat food with our right hand, right? Even though we are left-handed, the right culture is we eat food with our right hand. So here, to bewilder Brahma, this Krishna, he took food with his left hand, and he took the food from another person's plate. Now that's considered a bit not so cultured. We generally don't take food from another person's plate, right? So and in fact, it's in some places the acharyas say Krishna actually took the food from the person's mouth. The person was about to put near the mouth. From there, he took some food using his left hand and he put it in his own mouth. And then when Brahma saw this, he thought, oh my God, I don't think this cannot be God. God wouldn't do things like this. So he became a bit bewildered. And then he thought, okay, let me test and see. I've got some doubts. Let me test and see whether he is really God or not. So what he did, he came and he decided, when Krishna was, he created a commotion somewhere. And then the boys told Krishna, you go and find out what that commotion is all about. They wanted to go. But then Krishna knew, okay, this is part of Brahma's plan. Okay, never mind. I will go. He said, you all stay here, I will go. So when Krishna left, this Brahma, he actually put all these boys to sleep with his mystic power, and he collected all of them and brought them away. He actually transported them away into a cave in Brahmaloka. He brought them actually to his own abode in Brahmaloka, and he kept them in that place, and then he left. He went back to Vrindavan to see what's happening. What's Krishna going to do now? So this is showing some pictures of how Brahma kept the boys in a cave, and then the boys all were sleeping. They were put in sleep. And then Brahma left to find out what was happening. To his surprise, he found that all the boys are still there. In fact, he also not only kidnapped the boys, he kidnapped the cows also. He kidnapped the cows and the boys, and he brought all of them. And when Brahma came back, he was surprised. What's happening? The cows are all back again, but I just kept them in the cave. How can they be here? So what happened was, he was bewildered. So what happened was, Krishna actually, he knew that Brahma did this, so he expanded himself. He actually expanded himself. He expanded into as many cows and as many gopas there were, and then he took their form, and all of them went back. And what happened for 1 year, they were actually staying there. Each one of them were Krishna's expansions. Each one of them were doing his own thing. And it was a very beautiful, blissful time in Vrindavan during this time. Why it took 1 year? Because, when Brahma went to the Brahmaloka, 1 year has passed by that time. Because the time flows differently in higher planets. So when Brahma came, 1 year has passed. And then suddenly Brahma saw each one of these cows and each one of these boys actually start developing four-arm forms, Vishnu forms. And then he became bewildered. Oh my goodness, what's happening? Oh, then this must, he thought he must have made a big mistake. So Krishna actually expanded himself and showed his form to all the cowherd boys, and all the cows were displaying four-arm forms. And Brahma became completely bewildered. And then Krishna called Brahma, come. And then when Brahma came, not only did one Brahma come, many Brahmas came. So many other Brahmas came. You can see here one Brahma, another Brahma, and some Brahmas had more than 4 heads. The one here has 4 heads. The other Brahma, this one had 8 heads. This one had 10 heads, 12 heads, 16 heads, 1,000 heads, 10,000 heads. So then Brahma became bewildered. He thought he was the only Brahma. How many other Brahmas are there? Then Krishna told Brahma, I did all these things just to, it's my pastime, don't worry. There is a Leela behind. So actually, you are not the only Brahma. There are many universes. You know, the Supreme Lord creates not just one universe, he creates many universes. And some universes are larger, some universes are smaller. And there is a Brahma in each of these universes. So our universe is not a very big universe. So therefore, our Brahma has 4 heads. Other universes that are larger, so these other Brahmas have more heads. So therefore, Brahma is actually a position, right? So Krishna wanted to instruct Brahma in that sense. So Brahma immediately, he understood his mistake of kidnapping the boys. And then he started offering beautiful prayers to Krishna. He started glorifying Krishna. He says, please forgive me for my ignorance. I didn't know. I wanted to play. I wanted to do an experiment. And definitely you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he started glorifying so many beautiful prayers in glorification. This is all described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is to show that the Supreme Lord Krishna is the ultimate source, the ultimate Sarva Karana. It's actually one of the prayers of Brahma, this verse which I'm saying. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sachit Ananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. So like that, he goes on after that. Venum Kanvanta Maravinda Dalaya Taksham Barhavat. So like that, he goes on and on and on. Very beautiful verses. The prayers of Brahma are very famous. We can hear them one day. So that's it for today. Thank you. So takeaway is number 1, chapter 7 takeaway. Knowing Krishna is the last word in yoga. So the knowledge of understanding Krishna, who is Krishna and who is what he is, that is the pinnacle of knowledge, especially in yoga. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sarva Karana Karanam. So that's another takeaway. That means Krishna is the supreme controller and he is the cause of all causes. That is the purport of this chapter 7. And the third point is, who can and who cannot become a bhakta. So Krishna was just instructing Arjuna, there are 4 types of people who will never accept me, and there are 4 types of people who will accept. So therefore, these are the takeaways that we have. Right, so then remember there's a quiz. I will post the quiz after this. So we would like to end here. Just like to check with you, are there any questions? So let me stop the recording. If you have any questions, you can raise them now.